Alright, so I'm going to be doing another audiobook on Vampirates, the Demons of the Ocean. This is going to be chapter 2 because I already did chapter 1. It'll all be in, an audio, I'll put it in a playlist of, the Vampirates, Demons of the Ocean, audiobook, playlist for you guys if you just want to look it up. It's a very good, book. I like it. I'm already on book 4. But I noticed, there's no audiobook on this book. So I figured why not do it myself. Alright, let's go. It was the day after the funeral, and the twins had climbed the lamp room at the top of the lighthouse. Beneath them, the bay glittered in the noonday sun. Why is it so hard for me to say? Small craft shuffled in and out of the harbor. From this height, they seemed like white feathers skimming in the blue waters. Grace and Connor had always liked this room, as had their father. It was a place to come and think, and to gain the perspective of the Crescent Moon Bay, and see it for what it was, a tiny patch of land crammed with too many houses, teetering on the cliff in the days since their father's death. The lamp room had taken an extra meaning to the twins. Dexter Tempest had spent so much time in this room that it was impossible for either of the twins to enter it without feeling close to him. Even now, Grace could see her father sitting in front of the window, his eyes fixed on the harbor below. Humming an old sea shanty, she found herself singing it too. There was to be a flask of hot tea at his side, and almost certainly one of his dusty old books of poetry. As she'd come in, he'd turn and smile at her. I say, anyone at home?" The distinctive accent of Lachlan Busby signaled as an unwelcome trespasser in the room. Connor and Grace turned from the window as the red-faced bank manager appeared at the top of the stairs. Well, I declare I'm obviously not as fit as I used to be. I like to believe. Did your father really climb up and down these stairs every day?" Connor was silent. He had no wish to get into a conversation with Lachlan Busby. Grace simply nodded politely and waited for the bank manager to catch his breath. "Would you care to get some water, Mr. Busby?" she asked at last. She poured a glass of water and passed it to the bank manager's clammy hands. "Thank you. Most welcome, he said. "Did I hear you singing something just now? A strange tune?" "I didn't quite catch the words. I'd love to hear it if you feel like singing it again." Connor shook his head and decided it was best to proceed with caution. Clearly, Lachlan Busby was not a man who would climb 312 steps purely for a social visit. "It's an old sea shanty our father used to sing to us," she said. "A shanty, eh? He used to sing us to sleep with it when we were young. A lullaby, then. Some song of calming things." Grace laughed lightly. "Not exactly. In fact, it's about death and pain and purely horrible things." The bank manager appeared alarmed. "The point is, Mr. Busby, to remind you that however your bad life appears, things could be far, far worse." "Ah, I think I understand, Miss Tempest. And, well, may I say how impressed I am of your stoicism and in the current situation." Grace attempted to smile, though it came out more of a grimace. Connor looked at Lachlan Busby with undisgusted hatred. He was almost trying to remember what stoicism meant. "You two have experienced a loss that no person of your age should have to deal with," Lachlan Busby continued. "And now you'll find yourself with no parents and no income and no home." "We have a home," Connor said, breaking his silence. "We're standing in it." My dear boy, Lachlan Busby said, reaching out and fatheringly hand to squeeze Connor's shoulder, then thinking better of it. If only this were still your home, but without wishes of pile misfortune upon misfortune, it is my sorrowful duty to tell you that your father died with many debts. The lighthouse is now property of the Crescent Moon Bay Cooperative Bank. Grace frowned. She had suspected as much, but was now hearing the words made her fear more tangibly. Then we'll live in our boat. Also now property of the bank, I'm afraid, said Lachlan, his eyes sadly downcast. Your bank, said Grace. Indeed, Lachlan, Busby said. Now, what more have you to tell us, Mr. Busby? Grace decided to hear the worst, and he'd been done with it. Lachlan Busby smiled. His perfect white teeth glistened in the sunlight. I'm not here to tell you anything, my dears. I just want to make you an offer. It is true that as of this moment, you have nothing and no one in the world. But I have many things. I have a beautiful home, thriving business, and the utmost super wife a man could wish for. Yet the tragedy of our lives is that we never have been blessed with children, Grace interrupted. Everything suddenly became horribly clear. You have no children, and we have no parents. If you come to live with us, you will enjoy every advantage to being a Busby in this town can afford. I'd rather die, Connors said with his eyes blazing. Lachlan turned to Grace. Sorry if I'm out of camera. Lachlan turned to Grace. You seem more rational than your brother. My dear, then tell me what you think of my little proposal. Grace made herself smile, even though she felt sick inside. It's very, very kind of you, Mr. Busby. The bile rose in her throat. She struggled to swallow it back. But my brother and I do not need new parents. It's very generous of you to offer us your home. It really is. But we just... sorry. We just find it on our own. Or we'll just do it on our own. Lachlan Busby stopped smiling. You will not do just fine. You're merely children. You cannot live here by yourselves. In fact, you cannot live here at all. At the end of the week, the new lighthouse keeper will arrive, and when you will have to pack your bags and leave. Lachlan Busby stood up to go and turned to Grace one final time before departing. You are a clever girl, he said. Don't be quick to dismiss this offer. Others would give their teeth for it. As their unwanted guest disappeared down the stairs, Grace put her arm around her brother's neck and buried her face in a dip of his shoulder. What are we going to do? She said. You'll think of something. You always do. I'm running out of ideas. Doesn't matter what we do, Connor said, just as long as we are together. Grace nodded and started to sing softly. You better be a good child. You better be good child, good as gold, as good can be. Else I'll turn you into the Vampirates and wave you out to sea. Connor remembered his father with his arms around them, gazing out to the sea. Though the words were threatening, sending shivers down his spine, there had been something appealing about the idea of sailing off into the night. Now more than ever. He cuddled up close to Grace, and they set their eyes on the sparkling waters of Crescent Moon Bay. As soon as everything seemed to be okay, things couldn't get any worse than this. Alright, so that's chapter 2. If you enjoyed, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content.